All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, appreciate you guys being here. Now, the question of the day, I've got a few questions for you. How are your relationships? How are they going? What's going on? Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they draining you? Or are they lifting you and supporting you? And today I've got a handful of questions to ask that I want you to ask yourself that you can find out kind of where you stand with this. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a licensed psychologist, therapist, or doctor. If you feel like you need more help in this category, then please, by all means, pursue a professional. I'm here simply to kind of raise awareness for you. It's something that I've had to deal with over and over throughout my life, different relationships that have been both positive and negative. And so I've pushed myself into studying it, wanting to better myself. Over the last couple of years, I've had a chance to work with a number of people that are working on and dealing with addictions. That got me working with a nonprofit that did a lot of training for therapists and addiction counselors and addiction coaches. And so by proxy, in marketing some of these workshops, it interested me and I started studying some of that a little bit more. So we're going to dive into that today. So here we go. I'm going to dive into that. And then what we'll do is I'll work these out. And then towards the end of this, we'll do a little bit of Q&A. That sound good for everybody? And everybody good with my disclaimer? We're starting there? All right, good. So let's go ahead and dive in, ladies and gentlemen. I want to ask yourself these questions, guys. Number one, do you have relationships in your life that make you extremely unhappy? And I can get you these questions later. I can tell you where to look them up, but have any of your close relationships ever affected your reputation in a negative way? This doesn't have to be just your loved one, guys. Have you ever had to take time off of work because of a relationship in your life? Has being involved in a specific relationship ever led to you becoming less ambitious? Have you ever felt the need to set aside your dreams you have for yourself because of someone else? Do you tend to hang on to relationships for as long as possible, even after others would have lost hope? Have you ever borrowed money in order to pay for someone else's addiction or personal problems? Someone else is in need, you borrow money to help them. Do you ever feel as though you care more for other people than you do about yourself? Do you tend to take your care of the needs of others before you take care of the needs of yourself? Do the struggles you have in certain relationships ever cause you to lose sleep at night? Do you ever get the feeling that some of the relationships that you are in might be destroying you? If you don't meet someone's approval because of something that you did, do you feel bad about it? Do you strive to go above and beyond to make sure other people are happy? Do you live in constant fear that you may be almost ready to lose an important relationship? Do you try to figure out what will make people happy so that you can do those things? Do you spend a great deal of time obsessing about people and relationships in your life? Have you put your career aside in order to care for the needs of another person? Do you feel as though someone's you're in a relationship with is manipulating you? Do you ever manipulate other people in order to reach your goals or get what you want? When you're in an argument, do you concede just to make the other person feel better? So I know those are a lot of questions, okay? And some of you guys were trying to take pictures. I'm going to talk to you about where you can find that quiz. You can take it for yourself. It's a lot easier that way. But I wanted to ask all of them kind of in a rush to answer some questions. Have you guys ask some questions. Whether you want to admit it or not, I guarantee we have a few people on this call who would answer yes to probably a good portion of those questions, if you're being 100% honest with yourself. Now, for those that would answer yes to a number of those, or maybe a large portion of those, where you identified yourself within some of those questions, what would that typically be described as? What is that? Michael, yeah, you're a doctor, so you cheat. So it's a little bit different. Codependence, Carolyn, absolutely. Codependence. Now, here's the thing about codependence. There is independence, there's codependence, there's interdependence. There is a certain level of codependence in just about any type of relationship. You're going to ask your partner about decisions. You're going to ask about different things, right? But there is a healthy level and there is one that can negatively affect things, right? So Andrew, this is what these questions are kind of going beyond the interdependence. And so what we're looking at here really is that side of codependency. Now, think to yourself, and I'm not going to call anyone out here because I don't want to, but how many of those questions did you go, you know what? Yeah, yes, yes. And typically people that kind of, it happens a lot for women, for single moms, for single parents, for divorced parents, for people that consider themselves very high on the empathy level. Like I just resonate with anybody. And now you could be on either side of that though, right? You could be the one causing the codependency, or you could be the one that's experiencing a lot of them. And if you're experiencing a lot of them, then there's things that you've got to do to kind of free yourself and be in a more positive relationship. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about a handful of myths when it comes to codependency. Okay, I'm going to share these and I want you to look at them because it's something to really understand, right? Number one, codependency is a mental illness. It is not a mental illness. Codependency is a series of learned behaviors. It is not a mental illness. There is no diagnosis, at least technically, that I found, and I had a few different places confirm this. There's nothing, there's a list, there's a big, huge book, and a couple of you therapists can probably confirm this. Michael, I'll throw it out to you, but there's a list of here's all of these things that can be categorized as a mental illness. Codependency wouldn't be in there, even though some of the attributes may have certain elements that could be considered pieces of borderline personality disorders, but there is no codependence mental illness, right? Am I correct there? So, healthy, Michael, yes, thank you. Okay, next, only weak people become codependent. That's just not true, right? Codependency isn't just for weak people. If it was true, then most of these people that are codependent wouldn't be able to handle all of the stuff that they take on themselves. Because holy crap, codependent people tend to overexert themselves because they try and handle so many problems. Next, codependency only occurs in those who are in relationships with people who abuse substances. It is very prevalent there. Absolutely, because there's this sense of enabling in that category. Or you're trying to cover up, or you're trying to help, and you're trying to fix. But it's not just for people that abuse substances. Number 4, a myth. Codependency only affects women. Only women are codependent because they're trying to mother others. That's not the case. Now, this goes both ways, guys, men and women. And you need to learn to kind of identify within yourself some of these elements. If you're experiencing codependency on any level, you need to work on it, okay? Any healthy relationship will have some codependency give and take. It's reasonable if one partner looks to another for advice or guidance on a major decision. Absolutely. This is from a Dr. Jay Baker, who's part of, I want to say, Vanderbilt. But if you seek out, maintain, or even feed off relationships that are not fulfilling or healthy, then you could be codependent. These things become negative. Okay, here's a longer quote. I know it's going to be harder to read, so just listen for a moment. Codependency can be defined as any relationship in which two people become so invested in each other they can't function independently anymore. Your mood, happiness, and identity are defined by the other person. In a codependent relationship, there's usually one person who's more passive and can't make decisions for themselves, and a more dominant personality who gets some reward and satisfaction from controlling the other person, making decisions about how they will live. Now, this week I talked a bit, guys, about as you make decisions or as you're going about your life, giving up control to others to make decisions for you. Whether that's a parent or it's a loved one or it's a clergy member or whatever. But a lot of times we do that. Or we play the victim. When you fall down, you ask someone else if you're okay. Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Hartley, I agree. Borderline personality disorder is a mental illness. What I'm saying is that codependency has certain characteristics that could be characterized within that, but they are separate, is what I'm saying. So that's where sometimes people get confused with the two. because sometimes they go, oh, well, codependency is a mental illness. It's not, but it does have certain characteristics, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about there. So I've always treated codependent persons as exaggerations of normal human needs for closeness. Yeah. So it's, think about it, guys. If you know someone that is, or if you're that person, if you go from one relationship to another, maybe you've had a series of failed relationships, and every time you get out of one, you're looking for a brand new one, even if it's within a friendship, right? If a love, something happens to destroy a relationship, and you turn around and you immediately try to fill that with someone else, that's a level of codependency. If you are constantly trying to fix other people, well, then you're in a position where you're creating a codependent relationship, because you're trying to solve other people's problems and step in there, right? And controlling their decisions. So you may be giving up control in your life in one sense, and you're seeking out control in another. All of this is simply to bring up, I want you guys to look at this, and all of these topics that we go over really is with the purpose of helping you become better as individuals, to strengthen yourself, to become the best version of yourself, to look at the relationships that you're in. Now, fixing codependency on any level isn't easy, right? And I know some of you guys expect to come here and just get motivated all the time, and this isn't exactly along those lines. But here's a couple of things that you can do for codependency. Number one, pursue counseling. That doesn't always work. In certain relationships is what I mean, that or couples therapy. You may not be in a relationship where saying, hey, let's go get therapy is going to work. But you should have some help if you recognize some of these elements. If you're either the one controlling or you're giving up too much control, having a therapist, having someone on your side can be incredibly beneficial. Next, reconnect with friends and family. Oftentimes, people that experience a level of codependency tend to isolate themselves or become isolated because of that relationship. Reconnecting with others that can be a positive influence in your life is important. Next, carve out me time. If you're in the position where other people are making decisions for you, or you're helping too much, you've got a partner that is struggling with something, and so you're kind of taking the controlling side of that codependent relationship, or you're doing that with a child or a kid that you've got, or you're doing it with friends, right? A friend is struggling all of the time. They always seem to have drama, and you're the one that they lean towards. You're the rock. You're the lighthouse in their storm of their life. At some point, guys, that's going to tear you down. It's not going to be enough, right? It will drain you, and you've got to find me time. You've got to be able to, and this goes to self-care as well. You've got to take care of yourself. Exercise is part of that. Taking time away, you've got to do it. Next, pursuing your own agenda. So those goals, those dreams, that career, whatever it is that you gave up on, or as you're looking at this and you're talking about building your business, and they're saying, well, I've got this. We've got to make sure that this happens first. You're not looking at the better, the welfare of the family. If they're laying that guilt trip on you, that could be a sign. I'm not saying it is, right? I'm not trying to diagnose anything, but you've got to recognize where you are. Next is you've got to develop decision-making skills for yourself. Got to be able to make decisions, right? Like Carolyn put, if you fall down, you look to someone else and do I hurt? Did I get hurt? If you're struggling, should I be upset with this? If you have an experience at work and you come home and you go, should I be upset by what happened here? And you're giving your emotional power to somebody else to tell you if you should be upset or tell you if you should just get over it. That's a problem. And it happens more than many of us care to admit. Next, you got to learn to disentangle yourself. Now, it's not just stepping back from a relationship, but emotionally, you've got to pull your emotions back from being tied into how someone else is performing, how well your kids are doing in life, whether or not your significant other got themselves a raise or turned in their report on time or did whatever. Next, learn to say no. And for many of you, that's going to be one of the hardest things. Nope, not available for that phone call today. Oh, I'm so sorry you've had that problem. No, unfortunately, I can't get on with you and talk about it. Listen, I love you, but this is draining for me as well. And currently I've got to kind of look, you've got to, at times, guys, be a little selfish. You've got to work on your inner strength and your dialogue. One of the important things, I think, for those of you that are taking the affirmation challenge, let me ask you guys this. These are the last two things that I had that I got out of a number of different reports talking about how to strengthen yourself, work on your inner strength and your dialogue, and be kinder to yourself. How many of you guys are, either by a show of hands or a quick chat into the comments, how many of you guys are participating in the affirmation challenge? Like really making an effort to try and do it. Maybe you're missing some days, but you're doing as many as possible. How many of you guys feel like it's actually helping a little bit with your day-to-day, your inner dialogue? You feel like you're kind of becoming a little kinder to yourself. You're looking at life just a little bit differently. Maybe one of those little things that might have triggered you before didn't get you as flared up. Guys, that's what it's all about. If you want to strengthen yourself, strengthen your relationships, if you're struggling with codependency, if you're struggling with addiction, if you're struggling with self-confidence, if you're struggling with just your ability to make decisions or your belief in yourself, whatever it is, part of it comes from your inner dialogue. Part of it comes from what you're saying to yourself. Some of you guys are being too harsh on yourself. Guys, a little bit each and every day. That's what I'm challenging you to do. That's why that's there. And that's why I put that there. Partly at the end of it, and I think it was you that had written that. So I will be taking all of the things that I post each day, all of those challenges. At the end of this, I will be putting them all together and I'll be giving it to you guys. So here you go. Because my hope is that after the end of the 30 days that you keep going, that you keep working on yourself, that it doesn't just turn into, hey, I checked off my month and May was a great month for me. Time to move on. The hope and the prayer is that you guys take this to heart and say, you know what, it is strengthening me. It is something I need to continue to do. It is something I should be doing more of. So easy way to look this up, guys. And what I want you to do is just raise your level of self-awareness. So today, if you feel like any of that kind of resonated with you, just look up, am I codependent? You can find a couple of quizzes. Those questions I took directly from one of those. Go through that, get something emailed to you. If you feel like you need to find some help, there are some very inexpensive or affordable therapists you can find online. You can do it virtually if you can't travel. I know some of you guys are still in areas where it's locked down. If you need to find someone locally, then please, by all means, do. If you feel like there's topics like this in your research, if you find some topics you would like me to talk about, I'd be happy to. With what I'm telling you, I'm not here as a doctor to stand up here and diagnose anything, but if I can raise some awareness in your life to do something better, then bring it. So the challenge today that I posted inside the affirmations group, because I know some of you guys aren't in there, the challenge that I gave you today was to sit and think a little bit of, identify a couple of people. Now you're going to do this. The challenge is to do this until the end of the challenge. So about another 8, 9, 10 days or something. But each and every day, message, call, send a voice memo, a quick video to 1 or 2 people and just express to them how grateful you are to them about something, about anything. But I'm asking that it not be, I'm grateful for how you treat me. I'm grateful for how you make me feel. Because this isn't about you, it's your gratitude or your acknowledgement of their talents, of their gifts, of all of these things. Right? That's the idea behind this. Reach out to someone and say, hey, you're special. And I recognize you're special. And I recognize your talents and your unique abilities. But find something specific. And I promise it'll be more beneficial to you. So that's the challenge. If you guys didn't accept it, didn't see it already in the Skype group, there's more details there. Otherwise, go out and find somebody, do that today, each and every day. It's not comfortable. It does take work. It is something you got to do. But by golly, guys, you reach out to a friend you haven't talked to in a few months and say, you know what? I was just thinking about this moment. I am so grateful that this happened and that I saw you accomplish X, whatever that is. So make that work and go out and be amazing. On that note, I'm going to press pause. I love you guys. Go out and have an amazing day.